The top 5 mistakes that Richmond homebuyers are making. So look, if you're buying a home in Richmond and you make any of these 5 mistakes, you could be losing thousands of dollars, the home of your dreams. Even there are all kinds of things that could go wrong, and you could also get stuck with a house that you're not crazy about. So, I've seen really smart people over the past 21 years make dumb mistakes, including myself. I'm not calling myself a smart person, but I've made some dumb buying mistakes. I'm going to tell you about one here in just a minute, because just no one told me when I bought my first house. My agent didn't necessarily point out some of the things that should have been pointed out to me that could have impacted resale, and I might have thought twice, for example, about buying that house. So let's change this. Let's make sure that you don't make these 5 mistakes when buying your next home in Richmond, Virginia. So mistake number 1, not getting pre-approved first. If you want to hurt your real estate agent's feelings, I take that back. You shouldn't care about your realtor's feelings. But it is one of those things that is really annoying to real estate agents is showing people houses that have not been pre-approved. And here's why. If you've ever looked at a home or a car, anything that costs a significant amount of money, and you stretched your budget to the point where you're like, I can't do it. Then you know what it feels like to go look at a Mercedes, and then you have to go buy a Pinto. It's so hard. So if you don't know what you can afford because you haven't been pre-approved, you haven't had that conversation with a loan officer, and God forbid you look at a house that is outside of your budget, it's really hard. We don't want to do that to you. So it's really hard to start looking at properties that are actually within your budget when you've looked at properties that are outside of your budget. It also makes your negotiating position that much stronger if you come with a pre-approval letter. And of course, you're going to have to submit that with your offer anyway. So you might as well just check that box on the front end. This is one of the mistakes that we see buyers make all the time. Know exactly what you can afford, know exactly what payments you're comfortable with on a monthly basis, and then we go look at those properties. And then if you want to stretch, based on, once you have that information, we can stretch a little bit. That's your decision. Number 2 is real estate is hyper local. Look, what's happening in Short Pump is not necessarily what's happening in Churchill down in the city. You need someone that knows Richmond, that has experience of selling properties all over Central Virginia. I wish before I bought my first house, Midlothian, for example, wasn't even an option. I was just looking in the city. The second house that I bought was in Midlothian, and we loved living in Midlothian. It probably would have been the first place that we bought had I even known that it existed and that it was a really good opportunity. So, just make sure that you're working with someone that's going to say, hey, based on what you've shared with me, where you're working, the kind of lifestyle that you want to have, you want walkability, all of the things that they are familiar with all of the neighborhoods surrounding Richmond, so that they can point you in the right direction, especially if you're relocating to Richmond and you just don't know, right? So that's mistake number 2. Mistake number 3 is location. So, that house that looks perfect online might not be perfect. Like, have you driven the route? Have you driven through the neighborhood? Have you hung out, at that in that neighborhood after dark to see what kind of crazies come out, for example? Just making sure like this is your life. You're going to be spending, a lot of time here. You're potentially raising kids here. So, just make sure that it's going to fit the rhythm of what you're used to and the kind of life that you want to live. And again, that also goes back to working with somebody that really understands all of these markets surrounding Richmond, Virginia. Number 4, this is a big one. Getting emotionally attached too soon. I have made this mistake. Let me give you a quick story here. So when I bought my first house back in 2005, this little thing was cute as a button. And I didn't see, all I saw was the house and the pictures. I went to see the house. All I saw was the house. And it wasn't until I got to the home inspection and I'm standing out front, I'm looking at the house. I'm like, I love this little guy. He's so cute. He's gonna be all mine. And I noticed the house next door was a dog. It wasn't until the home inspection. I mean, I'd seen the house. I'd driven by the property. I'd seen the house multiple times. The house next to it was doo-doo. And so the reason I bring that up is because, it could potentially impact resale when you have a neighbor that doesn't take care of their property. The house is unkept. By the way, the neighbor turned out to be super, super sweet and kind, and we became buddies, but he didn't take care of his house. All right, so when you get too emotionally attached, you're going to do a couple of things. You fall in love. You might actually end up paying more than the house is worth. Okay, I actually did that too, more than the house was worth at the time. And overlooking red flags like I did with the house, the house next door, or things that are surrounding the neighborhood. Also, by the way, this house that I bought was really close to Broad Street. I just didn't even think about it at the time. And my agent, didn't really point out that, hey, that could potentially be a problem down the road. So that's number 4. Number 5 is not thinking long-term. This is another big one. Like whether it's your first home or your fifth, think resale. Now you're gonna have different opinions on this, and I go back and forth on this myself. A house is especially if it's your forever home, right? It's a place that you're going to live in long term, and of course we want every real estate decision to be a good investment. Where people go back and forth on this, I think Dave Ramsey does, is like, look, don't look at your house as an investment. I do both. But don't look at your house as an investment. You're going to live there. You're going to end up spending money on things because it's your home that you wouldn't if it were an investment property or something like that. But it's important to keep resale in mind. This is a mistake that I see a lot of people make. Schools, growth trends, taxes. The taxes in the city of Richmond are significantly higher than they are in Hanover County, for example, right? So all these things matter down the line. What we always like to say is buy with the exit in mind. So it's, again, just something important. So these are the top 5 mistakes that we see Richmond homebuyers making over and over again. If you can eliminate these mistakes, then you could possibly find yourself in a position where you're living in your dream home at this time, and you're going to get a really good return on that investment when it's time to sell that property. Listen, if you like this content and you like the stuff that we're putting out, please subscribe to this channel. It's going to help us to continue to produce this kind of content consistently and help just educate, hopefully all of the home buyers and sellers that are looking to buy and sell in Richmond, Virginia. And also don't forget to visit us at the realrva.com/YouTube, the realrva.com/YouTube. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. We'll see you next time.